Joining me now, House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer. Leader Hoyer, thank you for coming back to the Sunday show.
Good to be with you, Jonathan.
So before we begin, I want to play for the audience something that the audience has probably seen, because I've seen it retweeted and on Facebook. And this is you on the House floor on February 4th.
This is an AR-15 in the hands of Miss Green. This was on Facebook just a few months ago. I urge my colleagues to look at that image and tell me what message you think it sends.
Now, Leader Hoyer, of course, that was a speech you were giving about Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, not related directly to impeachment. But the atmosphere and the environment of menace that creates is part of the mix here, isn't it?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, the mix has been created by Donald Trump as early as his campaign in 2016. I remember the event where he said to the audience, the crowd, the rally that he was talking to about assaulting others, he said, and if you get arrested, I'll pay your bail. This was a 4-year and a half, and particularly towards the end where he said the election was stolen, which was obviously absolutely false. Court after court after court said there was no evidence of the election being stolen. But that was his premise. That's how he enraged the crowd. That's how he incited the crowd. And he sent that crowd, as Liz Cheney said, she said he summoned the mob, he assembled the mob, and inflamed them for this attack. So that there is no doubt that the context of the environment that he invited that crowd to Washington was a one of violence, one of overthrowing, in effect, the system of government and the election of a president of the United States. And it was a terrifying day.
And what do you make of Donald Trump's defense, trying to draw some kind of equivalence between the violent insurrection of the U.S. Capitol, trying to overturn a free and fair election, to the Black Lives Matter protesters of people all across this nation protesting the injustice of George Floyd being killed under the knee of a police officer in Minneapolis?
Jonathan, zero equivalency. It is not an accurate analogy at all. Black Lives Matter, obviously, we're demonstrating about equal justice, about eliminating systemic racism in America. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. That's what they were arguing about. This president organized a mob, inflamed the mob, and deployed them to the Capitol of the United States to stop the democratic process from working. I remember when my detail came up to me and said, Mr. Hoyer, we have to get out of here right away. And they'd just taken Speaker Pelosi out. And as I walked out into the Speaker's lobby, he said, the Capitol has been breached. Those words were stunning to me. Breached by a foreign enemy? No. Breached by people sent to the Capitol by the President of the United States of America.
And one of the things there's reporting in the Washington Post about how you were on the phone with Governor Larry Hogan of Maryland, pleading with him to bring in National Guard troops. What was the response you got from the governor?
Well, Jonathan, first of all, I didn't have to plead with the governor. The governor wanted to send troops. He understood the crisis. He could see it on television. His comment to me and to Speaker Pelosi, who was there, and Leader Schumer and Leader McConnell, who was also there, the four of us were together figuring out how we were going to get back into the Capitol, do our job, bring peace to the nation's capital. The problem was he could not get quick approval from the Pentagon, which was awful. And then we called the Pentagon, and I called him again after he had gotten some approval, and he was in the process of getting the National Guard on duty and to deploying them. But it was just, I was also on the phone, Jonathan, with my staff that was locked in a small room with no windows in my office in the Capitol. And as I was on the phone with them, I could tell the terror in the voice of my chief of staff and the extraordinary terror by the 11 other staffers who were in that room. pushing a desk up against a door, hearing the crowd call for the death of Mike Pence, calling for the death of Nancy Pelosi, rampaging through the Capitol, yelling and screaming hateful language and banging on the doors. You can imagine how terrified my staff was and everybody else who was there, and including the members in the chamber itself.